Hi, welcome to my channel. My name's Chance, and it's Friday, so of course that means it's time for some hot takes. Now, if you've been in hobby board gaming long enough, and by long enough I mean basically not very long, you've probably heard about this designer, Reiner Knizia. Hopefully I said that right. And yeah, this guy has created just so many games, and he has so many re-implementations. He's basically everywhere. Like, you're gonna hear about him. Now, if you were to ask me, am I a Knizia fan? My gut reaction would be no. I'm not a fan of Knizia's games. They're weird. They're maybe too simple sometimes. They don't have enough to them. I don't know. But if I'm looking at my top 20, I know that I have two Knizia games in my top 20. So overall, he's designed so many that I think there are some real gems among the games that he's created. And I think if you've only tried a few of his, maybe you should give some of his other ones a try. He has a pretty wide variety of mechanics that he uses in his games, so I think there's a Knizia game out there for everybody. And with this hot takes, I realized that I played four new Knizia games, or not new to me, but four Knizia games this week alone, and I don't seek out his games to play, so that's kind of surprising. And I decided, let's make this a bit of a Knizia roundup, and I'm going to give you 8 Knizia games for this one, because like I said, he has a ton of games, so we really need to kind of do more games in this video if we're going to make it through Knizia's catalog of board games. Alright, let's kick this off with one of his later games. This is going to be Don't L.L.A.M.A Dice. So, Don't L.L.A.M.A Dice is a small box game, and it is a very simple push-your-luck style game. Basically, all players are going to be dealt out a set of cards, and there's going to be kind of a market of cards in the center. You don't really want these cards, but this is a push your luck where you're going to roll dice, and those dice are going to determine if you can get rid of a card. Basically, you want to end the round with no cards, ideally, but you want to end with the least number of points possible. So if you have a 6 for one of your cards, you probably want to get rid of it, because that's 6 points, and you don't want those 6 points. And so yeah, you get to your turn, roll your dice. Did you roll one of the numbers that you have for a card? Yes? Great, you get to get rid of a card, and then you pass the dice to the next person. Did you not roll a number that you got? Oh, well then, good luck. So you get to actually take a card from the central market, and that central market just has one of each card, so it's kind of like this thing where you're safe to roll dice as long as there's cards in that central market. Because essentially, if you ever run into that situation where you can't get rid of a card and there's no card to take from the central market, you essentially bust in this game. And that's where you're going to go out and you are going to take negative points. I think you actually take like the whole market too. So it's a little bit of a push your luck where you're saying, what cards do I have? What cards are in the market? What are the odds that I roll certain things? And then also there's going to be llama on the dice, which will do some different things. And llama is going to be the most common symbol on the dice. So essentially, like, having llama cards can protect you, but they're also like minus 10 points, so they're the highest negative point card. So there's some interesting mechanics and interplay between the cards and the dice and the market, and watching what other players have on their tableau to see kind of what you think is going to disappear from that market. And then when it gets to your turn, are you going to push your luck and roll those dice, or are you just going to be out for the round and take what negative points you currently have? And I think the game end triggers after the round where someone gets more than like minus 40 points, and the person with the lowest score wins the game. So, pretty simple game. I actually really enjoy this one. I like playing it quite a bit. I like push your luck. It's nice having a light game in that push your luck category, and that has a little bit more decisions than something like Flip 7. Like, I think Flip 7's neat, but not my style of game for push your luck. It's kind of it's a little boring, just flipping the cards. So Don't L.L.A.M.A Dice gives you a little bit more to crunch on. It has the probabilities that you're playing around with, and the dice and choosing the roll. So really solid, the little push your luck game. The only problem I have with it is that it does feel like it drags a little bit. Like, it takes a little longer than I want it to, so it's not one that I really pull out very often. If I could reliably get the game done in like 10 minutes, I would be like, oh, this is great. But no, this game's going to take, 20 to 30, depending on how many people you have and how slow people are to roll their dice and to make their decisions and stuff. So yeah, this game it's nice, but it does drag for me, which is why I would say I don't really recommend seeking this one out. Like, if I was going to choose a dice game as my filler, I've talked about this before, I would pick up Paku Paku it's a real-time one. The game's gonna take 5 to 10 minutes, and it's amazing. So I'd recommend checking out one of my top 10 small box games when I talk about Paku Paku there. Okay, next up is going to be a two-player game, and this one's pretty famous in the head-to-head circles. We got Lost Cities. Now, Lost Cities I find incredibly engaging. I really like the systems in Lost Cities. It's going to be, you have a hand of cards, you're doing a bit of a hand management, you're going to, I think, draw cards and be discarding cards, but when you discard, the color card is going to go to its specific discard pile in the center of the board, and your goal is basically to go on an exploration, basically. And this is done by playing cards in ascending order to each one of the colored explore zones. So the best you can do is if you could start at 1 and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you have a fantastic exploration. You can actually put down some bid cards to double your points in that column. I think they have like boots on them. And if you place those ones down first, you can double them. You can actually put another set of boots down and triple them if you think you're going to do really good in that column. But the whole game is kind of centered around this shared discard pile and the separate discard piles, because each color has its own discard pile. So you're kind of watching the other player and you're seeing like, oh, they're going on an exploration over there, so I don't want to discard red. I don't want to discard like a red 3 for them. They already have the 1 and the 2. I have the 3 in my hand. It's kind of clogging up my hand, but I don't want to give it to them because that's going to give them a potential high scoring path on their side of the board. So you're doing this thing where you're trying to seek out the cards that you need while trying to not give cards to the other player. And sometimes you get those moments where the other player plays maybe they have a 1-2 and they play a 4. Now that red 3 is useless to them, and you're like, yes, I can finally get rid of this red 3 from my hand and throw that in that discard, and I know you don't need it anymore because you can't even play it because you've already skipped over the red 3 on your exploration path. Then the game is going to end once I forget the end trigger, but essentially everyone's going to have their exploration pass. If you made it to the end, you're going to score positive points in some pass and negative points in some pass, and essentially the player with the most points is going to win the round. And overall, I really like this game as a two-player game. It was probably one of my first two-player games that I put a decent amount of playtime in, and just that I really like that discard mechanic. Like, I love making that choice of managing your cards in the hands and being like, ooh, do I discard this card even though I know it's going to be helpful for them? Is it going to be more valuable to me to get rid of this card out of my hand even though I know they're going to take it and play it? I think Arboretum also does this really cool thing with discard piles. So I love this kind of hand management and deciding what you're keeping in your hand versus what you're discarding for other players to potentially take. It's a really fun system. Now, only downside of Lost Cities is that I don't like scoring it at the end. Like, I don't like adding up the pass and coming up with... it's not hard. The scoring is not all that complicated. I would say it's kind of annoying to teach. It's like, oh, if you have boosts, the multiplier, like, nothing is overly complicated in this. It's just I don't like doing the scoring at the end. That's just personal preference. And also, at this point in my hobby gaming life, Lost Cities, I've actually eliminated this from my collection. I just feel like there's so many two-player games out there that I'd rather play. Like, I got Wizards of the Grimoire that I've talked about in one of my other hot takes, and I need to make a review of that one because it's phenomenal. And then I like Radlands, although Radlands has fallen on my list quite a bit. There's other things like Watergate that I've enjoyed playing. I don't know, there's just a lot of other two-player games that have kind of it's made Lost Cities not hit the table for me. It's not that I don't like it, it's just that it's a little dry, and I think there's a lot of other good ones that you can explore out there. But if you want something light, simple, you can't go wrong with Lost Cities. Okay, on to number 3, and this is going to be the Quest for El Dorado. Now, this is Knizia's take on a deck builder. It's a racing game with a deck builder element, and you have a variable setup for the board, and basically everyone's going to have an explorer out. I think Knizia must like explorer games. But so everyone's going to have an explorer out on the start spaces, and you start with these basic cards that are like, you have a machete, which allows you to move into a forest space. You have a paddle, which allows you to move into a water space, or a coin to move into a village space, or to save those coins to purchase more cards from the market. and that is going to be a shared market that everyone has access to. There's going to be some basic cards and like some that'll give you more machetes that'll allow you to move into more forest spaces or to move through denser forest spaces. And overall, it's a very straightforward deck builder, and this is, I think, a great intro deck builder. I feel like another one that's a good intro deck builder is like Star Realms, but Star Realms is head-to-head where people are attacking each other. Not everyone likes that style of game where you're trying to whittle down your opponent's health. And Quest for El Dorado is great because you're not really head-to-head. You can block other players, which I think is really fun in this game, is to block people out of the paths that they want to take. But it is just a race against other players. And it just has a very solid set of deck building mechanics. Everything's pretty basic. It's nothing too fancy in the deck building. It's like, oh, you can buy this card to get more machetes. You can buy this card to get more variability. Like you have one that's like you get a coin, machete, or a paddle, and that gives you just some flexibility in your hand. You have some that allow you to get a lot of money or one-time use trash cards. So really standard deck building stuff. But it's a very streamlined deck builder. It's easy to take out, set up, teach, and play. Like I think if you're introducing deck building to people, this is the perfect game to introduce deck building. But overall, kind of like Lost Cities, this is not my choice of game to play. Like for deck building, Dune Imperium Uprising, just absolutely phenomenal. But that is not a game I'm going to introduce to new gamers, so that's where Quest for El Dorado, I think, still has a place in someone's collection. I don't own it, I have a friend that owns it, so I don't personally need it. And also, the other one I should mention is Clank. Now, Clank is the gap in my hobby gaming experience. I have not played any of the Clank games yet, and it upsets me. I've owned Clank Catacombs for like 2 or 3 years now, and it just hasn't hit the table for some reason. I don't know why. I have a friend that even owns Acquisitions Incorporated, the second one for the Legacy. Looking forward to playing that one. Hopefully we're getting that started this year sometime. And I think I'll be playing Clank Catacombs next week. But also just from what I know about Clank, what I've read the rules, what I understand from Clank, that's probably the upgraded version of Quest for El Dorado, and that's probably the one I would recommend because it seems way more interesting to me than Quest for El Dorado. But if you want something simpler, something lighter, something that you can introduce to basically anyone, I think Quest for El Dorado is great. I have a good time with it, and if someone pulls it out, I'm not going to turn it down. But I'm not going to seek it out myself to purchase. Okay, on to number 4. This is going to be Royal Visit. Now, Royal Visit is Knizia's 2-player tug-of-war game. And this is one where you have a king and he's surrounded by his guards, and then you have a wizard and a jester, and then players are playing on this cloth mat with spaces going to their duchy, or I forget I'm totally blanking on the name of the building at the end of it, but chateau. You have a chateau that you're trying to get the king to visit. So you're just basically playing cards to try to move these various characters. The wizard and the jester have their own powers, which can allow you to kind of manipulate the board in a kind of radical fashion, I would say. And you're just trying to get the king or this little crown token to be in your area at the end of the game. Your chateau. I keep forgetting that word. So if you can get them in the chateau, you win immediately. But then after 2 rounds, which is just going through the draw deck entirely, if you manage to get the king just sitting in your duchy at the end of that second round, you're going to win. And yeah, this is nice. I will admit I have picked this up at a game swap. I got it for $8. This game is usually like $25. And just right away, I don't recommend spending $25 on this game. I don't think it's worth $25. The production it's really nice. It has some crazy chunky wooden pieces in there. It has this cloth board, but for the gameplay itself, it looks great, but for the gameplay, it's not $25 worth of gameplay to me. Now, I played this once, and I feel like this game needs more plays to understand it. I did win that game, though, so I did grasp some of it. But it's this game where you have a very simple action in your turn. You have a hand of 8 cards. You are either going to play cards, or you're going to activate the wizard or the jester power. Playing cards will basically be play 1 card and move a matching type of piece. Now, if you move that piece, you can actually play another card to move that piece again. You can't change what piece you're moving in your turn, but if you can basically just keep playing cards to move that one piece. So if you have a king card, you can play it to move one. If you have another king card, play it, move another one, then play it to move another one. So essentially you might be playing cards to try to collect a certain type of card to make a big turn. Because essentially you can keep playing cards as long as you're moving that same piece every time. And that's kind of the key to this. It's a little bit of a hand management to maybe you have a turn where you only play one card to move a character just so you can hopefully get lucky and draw the card you need to do a big move on your next turn. Or you set things up where you get the wizard on your side, and then essentially the wizard can summon one of the court to their side, so you can summon like a guard or the king to there. But there's always the rule where the king has to be between the two guards. It can never be on the same space as a guard. So essentially the king always has to be protected by his two guards. So you have this cool positioning puzzle along with your trying to figure out how and when to play specific cards to be able to pull that king to your side. And then there's the second condition where at the end of your turn, if anyone is in your chateau, you gain a point, which is moving the crown token on the side of the board towards your chateau. So you're either trying to get that crown token or that king. So you have this dual tug-of-war game going on. And I thought this was neat. This was a fun play. This was a neat game. I like the system. I like the streamlined parts of this game. I will admit, I kind of wish I had the original version of this, because this is a reimplementation of another game where you're trying to get like I think a drunk to go. You're playing as competing bars, and you're trying to get this drunk guy to go to your bars. I think that's a more entertaining theme than the Royal Visit. Not as family friendly, but I think that's just kind of funny. But besides the point. Like I said, I think this is a good tug-of-war game, but if I was to recommend something, especially if you're paying $25 or so, like, Watergate's better. I enjoyed Watergate's tug-of-war system more, had a little more depth, and I like the thematic elements of Watergate. I do think that Royal Visit is it's a nice streamlined tug-of-war with some interesting decisions. I'm going to keep it for a little bit and hopefully get another couple plays out of it, but I don't think it's going to stay in my collection long-term, because this falls into the category of, like, there's other two-player games I'd rather play. So we'll see what happens with that one. Okay, next up is going to be this is a reprint that I just delivered like 2 weeks ago for me, and this is going to be Whale Riders. So Whale Riders is Knizia's order fulfillment game. You can see there's kind of a thing going on where Knizia he has games that are very, very streamlined and focused on a very specific mechanic. I think he does a fantastic job of that, and reducing the game to its core elements that make it fun. Whale Riders is one where, and this is Vincent Dutrait art, which is just phenomenal. I love it. It's pretty minimal. There's not a whole lot going on with the theme, but I do really like the production of this game. And it comes in a pretty thin box, which I appreciate. But essentially, you're going to set out this map, which just has this one-way path that you're going to take your whale, and you're going to be traveling down it, then you're going to return. So you're going to go to the end of it, then you're going to do this turnaround and go back to your port. And there's going to be stops along the way, which are going to have these goods on the market. And then the goods, the good closest to shore is only going to cost you, it's going to be free, and then the good second from shore is going to be 1 coin, then 2 coins, and 3 coins, and so on. I think there's 5 goods in each location that you're going to be trying to purchase. And the reason you're buying these goods is to try to fulfill orders. And you have a hand of 3 cards, which will have the orders that you're trying to fulfill. When you fulfill those orders, you're going to gain, basically you're going to keep that card. It's going to have pearls on it. Pearls are going to be your victory points. And then it's also going to have some coins. So you're going to actually be able to earn some money as you fulfill those orders. And the reason why you might want to buy those tokens that are further from shore is because the tokens vary, and maybe it has 1 meat on it or versus 3 meat on it, or maybe there's one with 1 seaweed or 3 seaweed, or even 1 or 2 pearl token might come out, which is just going to be victory points for you to purchase. Now, as the game progresses, the market is always going to fulfill, so things are always going to be sliding towards the shore, and then you have this bag of goods that you're drawing from, and you're going to fill in those furthest out spaces. But there's also going to be these storm tokens that come in, which cannot be purchased, and they're just going to be constantly moving towards the shore and making all of the goods for everyone a little more expensive as the game goes on. And also those storm tokens are going to kind of fill up those buying spots, so it's going to kind of force you to move on from those areas to kind of get to that next spot that still has goods, and then that storm is going to slowly wipe out the market for you. And this was good. This is an incredibly snappy game. I really liked this one because of how fast it played. Like, everyone's turn was just like a good, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds. It was like, oh, I want that good, purchase it, done, okay, refill. Like, I was doing the refilling, and I swear I was just drawing from the bag constantly. I was like, oh, it's my turn. Oh, okay, you're done. Okay, you're done. I was actually like, I can't keep up with this. So because of that, I really appreciated this game. It had a very simple flow, very simple mechanics. The orders were easy to understand. That there wasn't a whole lot of complexity in this game. And I do feel like with another couple plays, like, the strategy would change up a little bit, because there is a bit of a race element. If you get back to the port, so if you do that loop and make back to the port, there's just pearl tokens you can buy. And those pearls are victory points. So if you make it back there with enough money, you can start buying those pearl tokens. And essentially, once all those pearl tokens at the port are gone, the game ends immediately. So you could actually rush the end of the game. You could kind of fly out there, do some of your order fulfillments, then rush back and get there and start just buying those pearls and kind of forcing other players to kind of rush their game. So I think there's some interesting strategies going on with the order fulfillment, and just kind of with how those that end game is triggered, and also those storm tokens causing the market to just get more expensive and forcing people to move along that path. Like, this is a very streamlined and really well designed game. This is one that falls into a category that I don't have a lot of games that kind of fit in this this kind of well, one, I don't have a lot of order fulfillment games, and two, this played in like 20-30 minutes. I don't have a ton of games that give a lot of crunch in that 20-30 minute time frame. Like I was saying with like Don't L.L.A.M.A Dice, it's good, has push your luck element, but it doesn't have a lot of thinking going on with it. Whereas like Whale Riders was easy to set up, easy to play, and super easy to teach, and played in that like the same time frame, and I felt like I got more out of the experience. There's not a lot to this game, though. I would say this doesn't have a whole lot of complexity, so that's a pro and a con. Not a lot of interaction. It's just if you get to a spot and buy something that someone else needs, or rushing the end of the game, that's kind of the main interaction in this game. That makes me I'm kind of lukewarm on it. It's a game that I think I'm going to be keeping in my collection. I'm happy I have it, and I want to play it more in the future. It's going to be one of those ones that I think once I got everyone taught it in my group, it's going to be easy to put out on the table and be like, hey, end of the game night, let's play a round of Whale Riders, right? So I do like Whale Riders. This is one that, yeah, if you like, I would actually seek it out. Like, I've heard good things about it, which is why I purchased it, and I did enjoy my play of it, and I plan on playing it more. So Whale Riders gets a thumbs up for me. It's not going to be in like my top 20 or top 50 games or whatever. Maybe it'll show up somewhere in my top 100, but it's just a nice light order fulfillment game. Okay, moving on to a bigger production for a Knizia game, and one that I think gets a lot of praise. This is going to be Ra. So Ra is kind of, I would say, Knizia's probably most well-known auction game. Essentially, players are going to have these tokens, and they're going to have values on them, and you are going to be able to bid on this market of tiles that are coming out. Basically, you get to fill the market or bid on the market, and when you bid, you lose your bid tile to this other zone, which then when other players win bids, they can win that token. So you're kind of playing this game where you're like, okay, which token do I want to bid with? And I'm going to lose that token and give this other player the token. So if it's the big token, maybe that makes the market more appealing for them because they're going to win that bid token. So you have this game going on with the bid tokens, which I think is an interesting little side puzzle that you have going on with this other set collection puzzle that you have. Because essentially, to score points, you're trying to collect certain sets of things. Like you're trying to collect sets of, I don't know, mountains or pyramids or something. You have these flood tokens down on the bottom. And yeah, you have these different goals for your various sets that you're going for. So as you pull out tiles and you see things that work with your set, you're going to be like, ooh, that's worth a lot to me. And I need that, but other people don't need it. So do I want to bid with my low token or my high token? So there's definitely some interesting puzzling out what do other people need and what's valuable to me, and do we push our luck with drawing the tiles from the bag and triggering the raw tile or something. And so it's got some depth to the auction mechanics. But I'm going to be honest and tell you that I played this game twice, and neither time did I have any type of desire to play it again. It was just there was nothing that hooked me in this game. Now, I would say partially this is probably due to the set collection. I am not crazy about set collection. There are some games that I don't mind set collection, but making that the primary scoring category, where it's like, oh, if you get these pyramids with these specific numbers on them, you gain more points as you go. You get the triangular scoring. It's like you get 1 point, 3 point, 6 point, I don't know. So you get that triangular scoring mechanic where you're like, oh, get a bigger set, and you get more and more points going on. And sometimes I feel like this just lands into the category of like, yeah, you'll do well if the luck is in your favor and the tiles come out in the order that you want. I mean, I'm not going to say Ra is a luck-driven game. There is definitely some luck with the tile draws and like being able to get the tiles you need, but the puzzle of the bidding is probably the core part of it. It's just, it didn't grab me. It's not something that, I wasn't pulled into the theme by any means. Like, not that I'm saying I'm pulled into the theme of all Knizia's games, but it didn't help it for me. It's just, it felt kind of dry and a little slower than I wanted, which was disappointing because I've heard phenomenal things about this. So I recommend, if you're like, yeah, he doesn't know what he's talking about, go and watch some of those other reviewers talking about Ra. Because there are some people that absolutely love it and think it's Knizia's best game, but it didn't land for me. Okay, let's move on to some games that did land for me. And these next two are in my top 20 games. These are the Knizia games that they stand out to me as his best designs in the space, my opinion, which, it's my opinion, it has to be right? So let's move on to, this is the lower rated one, probably this is in my top 20, my other one's going to be in my top 10, so this is going to be Modern Art. Now, this is the auction game from Knizia that I absolutely love. So Ra is an auction game that I felt was a little dry, a little calculating, and Modern Art is the one where I'm pulled into the theme a bit more, and I just absolutely love the auction mechanism. So everyone's going to start with this hand of art cards, basically, and the cards will have different artists. I think there's 6 artists in the game, and there's a board out there that has the different artists in them, and there's going to be slightly different rarity for the artist for coming out for each round, and you're going to play over, I believe it's 4 rounds. I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 off the top of my head, but you're going to play over multiple rounds. And essentially on someone's turn, they're going to choose one of the cards from their hand, and they're going to take that, and they're going to put it up for auction. There's going to be 4 different auctions. There's like an open auction, which is the standard, oh, I bid 5, I bid 10, I bid 11. So anyone can call it a value and start bidding on it. There's going to be your hidden auction, where everyone puts money in their hand and then you reveal it. Whoever bid the most gets the painting. There's going to be a one-time offer going in turn order, where players get to make a single offer on the painting, and whoever makes the highest offer gets to keep that painting or wins the painting. And then finally, there's going to be a fixed price auction, which is where the person auctioning it off has to choose a price, and then essentially each player in turn order will get an opportunity to say yes or no to that price. Then if it gets back to that player, the player has to buy the painting at the price they set. So you got to be careful with those ones. Then there's one that's not a type of auction, it's just a double auction, where it basically allows you to put down another painting, and then you're essentially, that second painting determines the auction type for that painting. And the way that the game plays out is each round is going to end as soon as the 5th painting of a certain artist comes out. As soon as the 5th painting of any one of the artists comes out, the round ends immediately. You actually don't even auction off that painting. So you can actually end the round when there's only 3 paintings out of the artist. If someone plays a double auction, hitting that 5th one on the table, that round is over. So, and those 2 paintings wouldn't be auctioned off. And then once the round ends, you're going to look at the artist with the majority, and they get a 30-point token on their round marker slot. The second most is going to get the 20-point marker, and third most is going to get the 10-point marker. And that means that for each painting that someone has of that artist, they're going to earn 30 bucks, and it's supposed to be in thousands, so it's $30,000 that they earn. So if someone bought 2 of the most popular that round, they're going to earn $60,000 that round. And I also should mention that the auctions themselves, like when someone pays someone for the auction, the money, it has a slightly closed market during the round where the money actually goes to the person auctioning off the painting. So that actually incentivizes someone to auction off what they think is going to be a high value painting, because then they can potentially earn more money on that one. Now, the crux of the game comes in with rounds 2, 3, and 4. Because you're going to do the exact same thing, but when the round ends, each artist is going to get their tokens, the most popular to least popular, but then scoring is actually going to be a sum of the tokens in the column. So for each artist that did get a token during that round, so in round 2, they're gonna get their round 2 token plus their round 1 token. So if an artist they were first in round 1 and 2, they now have two 30-point tokens, so they're gonna be worth $60,000 in this second round. Maybe they got third in the second round and first in the first round, so they got a 30 and a 10. That means they're going to get $40,000 for this round. So you are kind of constantly trying to keep track of who has won in previous rounds and what you think they're going to do in this round. And it gives you a way to kind of calculate the potential value of these paintings when they're being auctioned off. Maybe, and you can look at your hand and be like, you know the probability of certain artists come out. So you're constantly looking at like how many of that artist you have. Do you think you can push that artist into first place? Or are you like, ooh, I don't have any green, so I don't think that green's actually going to be worth all that much. So I'm going to bet that the yellow artist is going to be worth the most or whatever. So, but the other part of this is that if an artist did not get a scoring token during a round, they get 0 for the round. You do not sum their column. So maybe they got first in the first round and they didn't place in the second round. So this round they are not scoring at all. And this is where it's kind of, you get to the calculating part of the game where you're saying, you're looking at players and they're bidding a lot on this one artist and you're like, ooh, I'm going to do a double auction on a different artist to try to make it so their art is worth nothing at the end of this round. So you're trying to drain the other players of their points by getting them to bid on the wrong things, and it just has just such a phenomenal scoring system. I just absolutely love how the scoring works in this. It makes it so you can clearly determine the potential value of paintings. I would say first game always throws people for a loop. You kind of have to make it through a whole game of it to be like, oh, I understand how this works. But then the second game, I just feel like it's so much tighter with the market, so much tighter with the calculations, and those fixed price auctions where you're on that third round and you're like, ooh, is this person going to be worth 80, or are they just going to fall out and only be worth 60 this round? So you're trying to say, ooh, do I price it at 60 or maybe I price it at 70? Try to push where I think the value might be. So some of those things are it's just fantastic. It truly is by far my favorite auction game. Then I always play with the rule that the person auctioning off the art has to describe the art. They have to sell it. They have to look at their art piece and be like, ooh, this is a piece from his darker period, and when he was in a state of depression here, and he was using a lot of blacks and a lot of anger and with this art. So this is really, really emotional work here, and we're gonna put this out and we're gonna start the bidding now. So bidding starts. So I make it so people add a little bit of flavor and theme to what they're putting out on the table, and some people have a ton of fun with this. I would say everyone I've introduced it to, if once one person, usually if I know the table is a little shy or whatever, I'll kind of kick things off with one of my pieces. I'll be like, okay, I'll start things off and kind of let people see it. If I know someone else at the table that is into kind of those thematic or storytelling experience, I'll probably choose them to kick things off just to get people in that mindset. Because it's not like role playing, you are literally just taking this art piece and you're just pulling out elements that you find interesting and describing it and trying to be like, oh, this is why you want to buy this piece. So because of that, because you can add that kind of thematic element into this, and because of the scoring system and just the variation in the auctions, I highly recommend Modern Art. I absolutely love this game. I love playing it. I want to play it more. So yeah, Modern Art gets 2 thumbs up from me. Definitely seek it out if you haven't yet. Okay, on to Knizia's games that is actually in my top 10. This one's going to be a little more divisive. This is going to be Zoo Vadis. So Zoo Vadis is a negotiation game. And this is where most of you would probably said, no, out, don't want to do that. But to be honest, I didn't think I was going to enjoy this because I played some negotiation games and I didn't have a great time. But Zoo Vadis, I absolutely love the negotiation here. Once again, Knizia he's a master at math and calculating and scoring. He just set it up so phenomenally well. And this is a game where you're going to be playing as a certain animal, and basically you're trying to move up to the star exhibit. The way you can move up to the star exhibit, you're trying to basically move up through these different enclosures, and each enclosure has a number of spaces in it. You to move forward, you must get a majority of votes. So if a space has 5 spots for animals in there, you need at least 3 votes to move out of that space. You can count for those votes. So if you have 3 of your own animals in that 5 enclosure space, you can vote yourself forward. So you can try to take a majority control of certain enclosures and be the controlling vote for that enclosure, which is really cool. Now, when you move, you're generally going to pass over a laurel token, and that laurel token is going to have a certain number of points on it. This allows players that you're trying to vie for their votes for, this allows them to have a very clear calculation of what that vote is going to be worth to you. So there's 2 things you're going for. You're trying to get to that star exhibit, and you're trying to collect those laurel points. Because essentially the winner of this game is going to be someone that has an animal in the star exhibit. We'll get back to that. That's an important point. And also has the most laurel tokens. So in this case, you look out there and you're like, oh, that's a 4-point laurel token. And maybe the player doesn't have enough votes to get out, so they're trying to negotiate at the table for those votes. So they're looking over there, they're like, hey, John, if you give me your vote, I'll pay you 1 laurel token. And then if someone gives a vote, they're also going to gain a 1 laurel token from the supply. So basically it incentivizes other players to make deals and to vote for other players because they know they're going to get 1 point. So the more deals you make, the more points you're going to get. But in this case, it's like, okay, John, I'm only going to offer you 1. And you're also going to gain 1. So remember, you're basically going to get 2 laurel tokens if you give me your vote in this. But John's looking over there, he's like, you're going to get a 4-point laurel token. So you're telling me I'm going to get 2 points while you get 4 points. Then no, that's not going to work. So let's say you give me 3 laurel tokens, and then you can get that 4-point laurel token, and then we'll be even. We'll be 4 and 4. And you're like, oh no, I need to have laurel points. Like that deal's not going to work for me. Not at all. How about we stick with my deal of the 1 laurel token, and you know what? I'm going to promise you the use of one of my animal powers. Now that's the other part of this game, is that every player has animal powers, and you have 2 uses of your animal power. Some of those are going to be like, oh, you're allowed to use these secret digging paths with the armadillo, or you can use the rhino to move 2 animals when moving out of an exhibit, or you can use the ibis to have an additional animal in a full exhibit. So there's animal powers that can be used, and you can promise those to be used for other players, but the rule of the animal abilities is that you cannot use your own animal ability. So essentially, these are your way of negotiating. These are kind of your value outside of those laurel tokens for kind of allowing people to give you your vote. Now, the way the rules work is that anything promised during a turn has to be honored. And so if you promise a laurel token and you get their vote, you have to pay them that laurel token. Now, if you promise something for a future turn, like if you're like, oh, I'll promise you my vote on your next turn, or I promise you the use of my animal power. This is where the game can get a little mean, because future promises are non-binding. Like maybe the game state changes enough and you're like, oh, I can't promise, like I have to take back my promise. Like I cannot give you that vote anymore. Like that would ruin my opportunity to be in the space for victory. So yeah, I think that the reason this game works for me is that it has stakes. The negotiation has stakes to it, but it also is driving you towards making those deals. Like it is making it critical that you make those deals. And the final thing is that it is easy to value every individual deal on the board. And I think that's what's important in a negotiation game, is that you need to have the clearly defined values for the negotiation. I feel like the other games that have fallen flat for me is that the values are kind of hard to determine. Like I played Moonrakers, and I felt like the negotiation always falls kind of flat. It's like, I don't really know what's most important to the other player right now. Is it coins? Is it victory points? Here, we'll split things evenly and call it good. So this is where I feel like a lot of other negotiation games struggle, is that they don't provide you with the incentive to be friendly in negotiations, to make those deals. They don't give you a clear value structure for that deal. And finally, they don't give you interesting tools to negotiate with. And that's where Knizia did great with all of that. Like, it gave you all the tools you needed to have a great negotiation. And then finally, if you can't make a deal on your turn, you always have the option to move a peacock. Those peacocks can be bribed with some tokens to gain their vote, but if you're like, okay, no deals this turn, I'm moving a peacock. When you move a peacock, you also get a laurel token, so that benefits you in a way. And the very final part of this game I need to call out is that star exhibit. Because generally there's going to be at least one space for each player. But players can have multiple of their animal tokens in the star exhibit. Doesn't benefit them in any way. They only need one in there. Or players can move peacocks into that star exhibit, blocking spaces. This is where the game is probably at its most mean. And this is where players can just be blocked out of the main victory condition needed. So essentially, if you do not make it to the star exhibit, all the world tokens you got are meaningless. You are not even in contention for winning the game. And yeah, this is where, like, towards the end of the game, some more interesting negotiations can come up. People can start doing a little bit of extortion, trying to be like, oh, okay, I won't move that peacock as long as you pay me 3 laurel tokens or whatever. So I think this is where the game can definitely get a little bit mean. If you want to have a deeper dive into some of what I think about this meanness in the game, please watch my king making video where I kind of discuss this a bit more. But I absolutely love this part of the game. I think this becomes the most interesting part. And yeah, it is gonna be a little more divisive. There's gonna be players that absolutely hate this part of it. I played one game of Zoo Vadis where the player that got screwed in the end, he was close to flipping the table, was swearing at people, and had a not good time. I don't play games with him anymore. He had other issues, so I don't think. Yeah, he was going to have a problem no matter what. But yeah, this is the point of the game where some players they are not going to enjoy it at all. But if you want to give a negotiation game a try, I think Zoo Vadis does it better than any other game. So that's my opinion. This is in my top 10. I love the interaction. I love the table talk at this one. I love the system that Knizia has set up to enable just interesting negotiations. Okay. So that is going to do it for my hot takes this Friday. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something about Knizia's games and maybe something about my opinions of Knizia's games. Now, I usually do a wrap-up, but I got 8 games here, so I'm just going to do kind of a rapid flyby wrap-up on this one. Games that I would seek out from Knizia. This is going to be, obviously, Zoo Vadis, Modern Art, and then kind of a lower tier, Whale Riders. Like Whale Riders, I think fits an interesting category. Games that I'm fine with. I think there are better games in the genre, more interesting games, but I think Knizia does a good job with them. So if you're interested in kind of a lighter version of kind of these mechanics out there, I think Royal Visit with Tug of War, El Dorado with deck building is really good. Lost Cities as a nice little 2-player dueling game also does a really good job. Games on Knizia's list that I'm not as interested in. Raw just didn't grab me. I can see the depth there, but I wasn't engaged with the systems as much as I honestly hoped I would be. And then Don't L.L.A.M.A Dice. I think Don't L.L.A.M.A Dice is actually a good push your luck game. It's just one that, for me, it drags. It's kind of a little slower than I want for a nice little filler push your luck game. So that's going to do it for my hot takes video this Friday. As always, I appreciate you watching this video, so thank you for spending your time with me, and I'll talk to you next time.